Come here. We're going to go talk to Bret Bertholf, who is 5 amazing artists all in one. He's a film director. He's an author. He's a children's book illustrator. He's a frontman for a honky-tonk country band. And he's a fine artist. Come on. Marianne Hogan, remember? From thatgood.tv? We're in. Let's go.
You might be a cowboy, you might wear a hat, you might drive a pickup, well I know about that, but if you're a cowboy, well then it's so...
Hey, Bret. So, I would like to know what your earliest memory is.
My earliest memory?
Of being an artist.
I was going to tell you that one of my earliest memories is of seeing Nixon on the television.
Yeah?
And it was, and it had to have been during the Vietnam War because they cut to, and I don't know if that's a real memory or if that's just like something that is implanted in my mind by the government.
That's huge. Did you make any decisions at that point in your life?
Most likely. Not to go into politics, I guess. But an artistic memory, that's a really good question. I got to make a macaroni and cheese collage and I got really into it. And I think it was a picture, it was either a rooster or a bouquet of flowers or both. I might have done 2 of them.
And was that in school or?
That was in kindergarten.
Did you feel like that was something you'd like to continue doing at?
Mm-hmm, I think so. Macaroni and cheese.
Wow. Well, I think you had a memory in the 2nd grade.
Of doing Pikes Peak?
Yeah. Tell us about that move.
I was born in LA and moved to Colorado Springs. My dad got a job for NORAD, working under the mountain like a dwarf.
Trippy.
I know. But so we all moved to Colorado Springs, and I was sort of obsessed with Pikes Peak, and I drew pastel pictures, drawings of it. And I had to do at least 20 or 25 of them. But we were only there for a year. And
so sort of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Very much like Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters, where he was obsessing with the tower.
Yeah, but were your parents worried about you at all?
I think they must have been worried. They were pretty supportive of me. And I think they liked it that I drew. And they loved the fact that I would sit and do that. I think because I was quiet, I'm sure.
But that only lasted a year.
And then we moved to Texas.
And what was that like?
Texas was kind of the opposite of Colorado, where you wanted to be outside. You know, it was so hot you had to stay inside all the time. But that was sort of my mom's, the ancestral home. You know, it was my mom's return to, and she went there because her father was not feeling so well. So, and he died soon after that. But that was Joe Wofford, which is where the
that's his
Wofford
name?
Yeah. So Halden Wofford is my father's father. My dad and my grandpa are both named Halden, and my brother. And Wofford was my mother's family. So that's where that...
I've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time.
Wofford.
But then it sounds like Colorado was a big creative time for you. Even though it was just 2nd grade, it was very... Somehow it stayed in your mind. And you ended up going to the Rhode Island School of Design for college.
Yeah, I ran off because I think I literally looked at a map and saw that was about as far as from Texas as I could get without going into the ocean. And there was an art school there, so so that was it's the only place I applied. So I ran away, and I was trying to escape Texas at that point. I hadn't yet to embrace Texas as a spiritual home, but Colorado had that sense, romantic sense, I think, because of all the drawing as a kid. And my cousin and I both, he was in the Navy and I was in art school, and we both thought, when we get out, we're going to Colorado. We wanted to be in the mountains, and we did. We lived in the mountains for a year.
Wait, did you live in the mountains before you went to college, or after?
No, after. Like right after school, once I graduated, I came and lived in the mountains, which is a dumb move if you want to be an avant-garde painter.
So then after that, you came back to Denver, correct? And I know that what you were doing was fine art, and you actually did really well because I know you had a gallery in Denver, one or more galleries in Denver.
No, I was part of the what do you call that? The cooperative scene, where it was artists working together to have a gallery. So I was part of that in Core New Art Space at the time. And then when I became I got an artist in residency at Anderson Ranch outside of Aspen. And that was when there was a gallery that had my work in it up there, the Floria Gallery. Yeah, that's up there.
Wow. All right. So at some point when you're in Aspen, you decide you don't want to be a fine artist anymore. And you start thinking about being a musician.
But I'd always been playing music. I wrote songs with my friend Steve from college. We wrote ridiculous songs together. And we would make tapes and send them to our friends and say, hey, what are you doing? And so my songs were tending to become more, I think I thought of it as silly. And I was thinking about this because the other day when we were talking about where, like the interests that we have come from, I was thinking about it because I think the country music thing had a lot to do with hidden knowledge, because I was really interested in the music that, I feel like my grandparents, they're so unknown to us in a way. And it was a way for me to sort of relate to them and where especially my grandfather from Fort Worth in Texas. And I think it's all that stuff they don't want to tell you about, and it was, well, this is what they were doing. They were hanging out in honky tonks listening to this music.
Were they?
Yeah, I think so, because all that, all that music, my grandpa's favorite was Ernest Tubb, who is he's like the first honky tonk. Well, I guess you could argue that, but all that music, that's the sinning and drinking music from the time. And I think, they don't want you to know about that.
Were they heavy duty Christians? I know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think everyone because
everyone in the South is kind of.
Well, yeah, but yeah, I mean, life was tough in the 30s,
Yeah,
like now. So eventually everybody turns to God. So
you were writing the music and you just found yourself kind of leaning toward more honky tonk kind of.
I think yeah. Either it was in the blood, or when I was a kid, it was on the radio, in Texas. And the more I listened to it, the more I loved it. And there's 80 years of history there.
And it's so real. It's the saddest and the happiest music there is. True.
It definitely is.
They use plain words. It's
they did.
Plain spoken. Yeah.
I think that had something to do with it. It had a lot to do with sort of, who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going?
So then, how did you think of your band's name, Halden Wofford?
Oh. We put ballots in a hat and passed it around at a bar, and everyone wrote the names, and then we had everyone vote on the names people had put in the hat. And Halden Wofford and the High Beams. Oh, the High Beams, that's where that name came from. So that won. It won. It was either that or My Dog Likes This Band, I think was the other name.
My Dog Likes This Band.
Yeah. But Halden Wofford, I just knew that I wanted it because it was like my grandparents' music at the time. I wanted to play Hank Williams tunes. And so and then Western swing music was a big influence. And so it just made sense to it was like both my grandparents, it was their era of music, that back when the Opry was all you could hear in the Midwest and the South.
You've done really well. You've got 4 albums out.
We've done okay
You've got quite a following, and it's people that are fun to be with.
Some of them are, yeah. I mean, we've played for all kinds of different types of people, and yeah, we play a lot of private.
And have you noticed that your music has changed over the years?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I feel like my music is, to me, it sort of sounds the same. Like, to me, I'm just doing my thing. But it's funny, like, every time we do a new record or CD, people say, and that dates me if I say record, doesn't it? But because I still think of them as records, albums.
That's country.
Yeah, it's an album. Mm-hmm. It's like a family album. But every time we do one, I think of, I think it's kind of just a continuation, more of the same. But I feel like even people in the band will say, I don't know about this. It's so different from the last. It sounds the same to me, but I guess it's kind of a progression. But we keep pushing ourselves.
And then I love that you are an author and a children's book illustrator, and that's amazing. How did that come about?
So when I first came back here, I worked at the Tattered Cover bookstore because I love books, obviously. And I eventually became the events coordinator for children's literature. And we had, so I would book authors and illustrators. And that was as I thought, God, I could maybe do this. And it just so happened that was sort of that same time I was in Aspen. So I was gone, came back, was the kids' events coordinator, and I started thinking about writing a book. And so that was where it's a history of country music for kids.
So at some point, you're working at Tattered Cover, and you got things going on.
Yeah, so I had a lot of help. Some of the reps that I worked with helped me arrange meetings with editors in New York, and one of the writers actually hooked me up with her agent, who became my agent, and who is still my agent.
One thing I was just kind of interested in. Do you feel like talking at all about the Amelia Bedelia thing?
Sure, I'm excited about the Amelia Bedelia thing. So next year is the 50th anniversary of that picture book, and it came out in '63. And so for that, the Leon books that I did were through HarperCollins and Green Willow Books, who published Amelia Bedelia. And so as I've worked in film and commercial film, just getting work, I finally put together a website, and my editor from Green Willow saw it and said, would you be interested in piecing together this little documentary for the celebration of Amelia Bedelia and Peggy Parrish for the 50th anniversary. And
they're both dead, right?
Amelia continues to live. Well, she lives on.
But the illustrator and the author have gone to a greater reward.
They both have passed away. Yeah,
they've gone on to the great heaven of
children's book writing.
Yeah, which is particular heaven.
I think it's probably a wonderful place to be.
Oh, should we go there?
I think so. We should after this.
And you're shooting that, so I think it's important.
So I shot some.
You shot it yourself.
I had a cameraman help me. I was the director, and sort of we put together that whole thing. Yeah, my friend Muga helped me out. So it was a very it's a very small shoot. We just went to a school, and the Tattered Cover helped me out, and we did a story time for Amelia Bedelia with the kids, just to have the kids. Oh. So they interviewed Herman Parrish, who is now the writer of the Amelia Bedelia series, and in New York, and then they sent that footage to me, and I've been putting it together with some of the kids' stuff.
So, along with you producing, directing, writing, well, everything but shooting the camera of the Amelia Bedelia, you also, this is a great time to bring up the fact that you direct great commercials. And in fact, I'm just going to say this because you're the one that doesn't like to talk about yourself, but I've been on your sets, and you have like 75 people in the crew, and the cameraman will be pulled in from New York, and he's the crustiest, best cameraman in New York. So we have that you have going on. And what you've done for a long time is art directing.
Yeah, with Pam, with my wife, my lovely wife, Pam.
You're fabulous.
She is fabulous.
Pamela Chavez.
Indeed. She, she's the reason that I got involved in film. And she always, when I was a little kid, like every kid who saw Star Wars, I wanted to be a director. But so the realization of that came through working with Pam, and then.
And you've been together 18 years.
At least 30, I think it is now. No. We've been together 10 years next year.
Oh, and that's
10 years since I was 10. Yeah, it's pretty amazing that little kids can get married in this state.
I know. The South, you got to love it. So you're getting out of the art directing. It's not really your favorite, but it is like bread and butter. Yeah, and you're good at it. God knows.
Of that together, and it's sort of nice to get to work together.
So if you could only do one thing, God would only let you do one thing.
What would that be?
Yeah.
It sort of depends on the day, but
today,
If I could just do one thing, oh God, I think I would. I don't know. You mean like make a living doing one thing?
Mm, well, let's just assume that whatever you do, you're going to make a living at. That way.
The attraction of film to me is that you can combine a lot of the different disciplines, little things that I do. And so like the goal of doing these things is eventually to put together something that combines the music and the writing and the visual aspect. So that I think is the biggest attraction of directing. So I would love, I think, to make a movie at some point. We'll see.
But how do you include? I know you want to do the fine art too. You're just going to do the.
I think that would be a part of it. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that would. It scratches that same itch when you direct in a way because you're composing.
Because you're creating a whole. No.
When I'm directing, I'm composing at the same
But you
time.
do that, and I think it's all part of the same. You create a reality.
Yeah, you try to, if you're lucky.
Thanks, Bret. That was so much fun. So check out our other episodes of amazing people, interviews that all crack the concrete of the mundane, wildflowers, right here on ThatGood.tv. Marianne Hogan, ThatGood.tv. Namaste.